question that might stop you in your tracks. What will it cost you if you don't make that scary business investment? If you don't hire that person, sign that lease, or take that leap you've been avoiding? Today's guest, Jamie Troche, uses this powerful reframe to push past fear and self doubt. And it's the exact same mindset shift that many struggling consultants need to finally move forward in their businesses. My name is Aj Riedel. This is Thriving Through, the podcast where each week I have real conversations with successful, seasoned self-employed consultants about what it really takes to build a successful, profitable, sustainable, and fulfilling consulting business. Today, I'm talking to Jamie Troche, a website designer and business consultant who took one of the most unconventional paths to consulting that I've heard. From nursing school to manufacturing American Ninja Warrior obstacles, to accidentally discovering that she was a consultant while building websites for family and friends. Jamie's path proves that you don't need an MBA or corporate credentials to build a successful consulting practice. If you've ever struggled with imposter syndrome, questioned whether you're qualified enough to call yourself a consultant, or wondered how to market yourself when you're just starting out, this conversation is for you. Jamie gets refreshingly honest about her own self-doubt, shares exactly how she overcame it, and offers practical advice for any consultant who's still building their confidence while building their business. Let's dive in. Welcome to today's episode of the Thriving Through podcast. Today, I am delighted to have Jamie Troche as my guest. Welcome, Jamie.
Hi. How are you?
I am great. So I ask this question of every podcast guest. It's a way to kind of get our conversation started. What was your path to becoming a self-employed consultant?
Okay. Well, I will have to say that I never actually thought it was something that I was going to do. Um, but I actually originally went to school for nursing, and I do have two children, so I actually never went through with that career path. But when I was staying at home when they were very, very little, me and my ex-husband actually started a business creating obstacles for gyms around the country that do American Ninja Warrior training for kids and adults. And that started out with, my son being interested in the show. And then we found a class that did, little obstacles on the floor and things like that. And my ex-husband was into manufacturing. So he kind of saw the obstacles on the show and said, that would be really cool to kind of get that into his class. He's like, I can make that stuff. So he did. And then it became a hit, and we started out selling that kind of stuff on Etsy. And then it just kind of blew up. It's a very, very small niche, and everybody in the community of it started, kind of jumping on the bandwagon of creating their own little classes, which then turned into little gyms later on. And now it's those gyms have, competitions all over the country and even in other countries and stuff like that. Outside of the show, it's just like a little, community of people who actually do compete with each other. So we from literally selling it to people doing it in their backyard to selling it to franchises now is where that went. So I started out with going from an Etsy shop to creating just a Squarespace website for the business, just from what I learned on my own. And from there, everybody just kind of started seeing it. When you start a business, your friends and family are like, oh, I do this, and I've been thinking about a website, or I've been doing this, and I think that would be great. So I started doing websites for my friends and family. And from there, it's just word of mouth. It just started taking off. And so really I just kind of building websites for friends, family, and then their friends and family. Um, and then I actually went through a divorce in 2021. And so I stepped away from the manufacturing business, and I was like, I really have something here. I really know what I'm doing when it comes to marketing and websites. I just kind of absorbed everything I could over the years. So, everybody kind of comes to me for advice and things like that. So I said, why don't I'm going to start doing this for myself. And I created my own website at that point, and I started kind of just marketing myself a little bit. And what I found was that when I would get a client who wanted me to build their website, it's a small business owner who really they have a passion for something, and then they have a lot of questions about how to run a business. And I built several businesses at this point for helping my friends and family, and the one that I did myself. um, so I have a lot of knowledge and a lot of, just problem solving. And they would just, we'd be having a conversation, and I'd say, I have experienced that before. Have you tried this or have you tried that? And so finding that, most of my clients were getting really, really happy just from helping them. And that was free. They would pay for a website and they'd get all this free, knowledge basically, or problem solving from me. And I became like this go-to person for, people who actually became my friends through making them a website. So that's kind of where it started with the consulting side. And, at that point, I decided, I really want to get more into doing that. And, just this year recently, I decided I'm gonna kind of start pushing that and actually market that for myself and maybe make some money, from the marketing side of consulting. So,
Okay. So are you moving away from website development or just
um,
building this up to be a bigger piece?
I think it's going to just be another service that I offer, because what it is I really focus on small businesses. I don't go after the corporate, big, you can do a $10,000 website for, a large company easy. But I actually enjoy what I enjoy about it is that interpersonal, relationship that you develop with that business owner. For a couple reasons. I mean, they are doing something that they are passionate about. Obviously, they maybe started it as a hobby, realized that they can make a little bit of money doing it, and then it's like a baby to them. It's like another child. They really are passionate about growing that business. So when you get to talking to them, whether it be for a website or, helping them with their marketing, or anything really, they love what they're doing and they just want to learn, do it better. And when I can connect with somebody like that, then I feel more passionate about what I'm doing because they're passionate about what they're doing. Um, and I'm just helping them. And if you think about where I started, I originally went into nursing thinking I want to help people. And this is actually, I'm still helping people because these small business owners are actually, when they make money and they do something great and they have a good month, that might pay for a vacation or that extra class for their kid or something like that. So it's not like you don't know who it's helping when you can see that, growth in their business. It's really rewarding in that way.
Yeah, it's like you're still helping people like you did when you trained as a nurse, but without the blood.
Yes, exactly. Which, I mean, there was a point where I actually passed out from seeing too much blood, so it's kind of a good thing that I do not have to deal with that at all.
Yeah, yeah. That could be an occupational hazard that could prove to be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a story or two about a big challenge or one of the biggest challenges you faced since building your consulting practice and how you overcame that.
Let's see. I think um one of my biggest issues has always been to remember or to make time to actually market my own business. And it's funny because like I don't know, it's that whole idea of like, your barber always needs a haircut or your plumber has horrible, has a backed up toilet or something. I don't know. But I have always had a hard time making it a point to focus on my own things. Because I always put I get excited about a business. I'm like, I can grow this. I can see where it, and then I focus on it, and the consistency I have with promoting my own business just kind of falls off. So it's something that I'm actually working on, is making, time blocking and making sure that, you know, basically fill your own cup first before you help others. And in my business, I'm definitely seeing that it does pay off. So
And about how much time would you estimate you spend a week on marketing
marketing for my own
for your
business,
business? Yeah.
I would say for myself at this point, about 20 hours a week, actively doing, whatever, whether it be, graphics for social media or email marketing. Um, or actually one thing I spend a lot of time is actually going out into the community and talking with small business owners locally. And it can be fun. I can do that with my kids. I can do it with, friends. And when we make it a point to go to small shops, little mom and pop restaurants, wherever we're going. I try to make it a point to, if the owner's there, to talk to them, hear their story, get to know them. And then, usually whenever I come back, they'll see me and they'll say hi, and like they remember me because I make that connection. And I think that's one of the best ways really to kind of grow something like this, because you're creating that, connection and that friendship before anything. So if they do come across something that they need, they might think of me and say, "Hey, do you have any idea how to do this?" And then, we kind of go from there.
Okay. When
Yeah.
you meet them, do you capture their email or is it just really more kind of casual friendship to
Right
start?
now, so when you first meet somebody in person, I actually don't focus on getting their information at all. I do give my card out if I feel like it's appropriate, but mainly it's just creating a connection. If there's a good connection there, I will definitely be back. I love supporting small businesses, obviously, that I'd rather, shop there than anywhere else. So when I go out on the weekends or something like that with the kids, then I will make it a point to like stop in and say hi if they're open, things like that, especially right around my community. So yeah. I've
Great.
actually gotten a lot of referrals that way. I've had people, when I'll stop in and they say, "Hey, do you have a card? Because my friend, or my hairstylist or my, whoever, had this issue, and I thought of you, but I didn't have, your information or whatever." And that's I've gotten a lot of business doing that.
One of the benefits of working with small local businesses.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. So when you transition from marketing a physical product to marketing your own consulting services,
Mhm.
what was the biggest mindset shift you had to make?
I think it's, it gets hard to talk about yourself and how I can, help. There's all these things I know how to do, and it's like, how do I put that in a nice, neat package and say, "Hey, I can help you with all of these things. What do you need?" Um, because it's not like, here's a picture of the thing that I'm offering. It's more like I actually have to talk about it. I actually have to talk about myself and say, "Yeah, I'm good at this," and not feel like I'm bragging or something, when you say I'm good at this, but you want them to know that you are, but at the same time you're like, I don't want to feel arrogant or that I'm bragging about myself. I think that's one of the biggest challenges in selling a service like that.
Because you
So
ultimately you are selling yourself and your abilities.
yeah, you really have to work on, self-help books, believing in yourself, that kind of, inner work where you're constantly building up your own confidence. And I think the more you talk about it, again, in person with people, the easier it is to talk, when you have a phone call or something like that, with somebody that you've never met, like, why should I use you? And now you have to give examples and talk about what it is that you know. And I think one of the ways that I do that, initially, is I ask them questions about their business. I think that if I can get somebody to talk about their business, they'll eventually tell me some of their, points that are hard for them. And, in just hearing about it, I can usually come up with like, okay, that is a fixable problem, or And even in a conversation, I'm usually giving a little bit away, like here, I think that have you tried this or that? And they will definitely see the value in just having that conversation a little bit.
So you're kind of consulting and coaching as a way to show your expertise in a very low key, not
Yeah.
promotional way.
Yeah, I'd say.
When we talked earlier in the pre-interview, you said that if you marketed your own business the way you market your clients' businesses, you'd probably be further along.
Absolutely.
So let's dig a little into that. What specifically do you do differently for clients that you struggle to do for yourself?
I think what it is I become very end goal oriented for my clients. When they hire me, they're trusting me to help them propel their business, grow it, and something that they can see, some kind of, increase in sales or increase in traffic, anything like that. And so I start thinking outside the box, like, what are they doing now and what other things could they be doing that I know of that I can help them with? How can we expand their reach, right? And when I do that for other people, it's a little bit like I see what they're doing and then I want to, I guess I can just expand on it. But then when I look at what I'm doing, it's almost it's different because you're looking in from the outside when you're dealing with other people, but then,
Mhm.
something that I'm working on for myself, it's something that I've been looking at. I've been seeing it. It's a little bit harder to say, well, what else could I do? Right? Um, I guess it's harder to come up with creative thinking for my own business because it's something I'm continuously thinking about, not a new idea, right? So,
Right. Because you're also in the weeds of it.
yeah, yes.
You mentioned time blocking as a solution to your consistency problem regarding marketing. Walk
Yes.
me through what that actually looks like in practice. How do you protect
Okay.
that time when, for example, you've got a client who calls or pressing client work?
Right. So I actually use Google products a lot. So my Google Calendar is kind of my best friend. And I right there because everything's color coded, there's certain things that, are non-negotiable, and that's going to be family time, self-care time, things like that that are on my calendar that do not move. And so if my phone rings or I get an email, it's going to wait. But when there's, working hours, that's all split up into different time blocks. So I started putting in, time for my own business marketing, and I'm starting to treat that a little bit like my self-care time.
Mhm.
So it is self-care, but it's for my business, right? And then after that, then there's going to be client time blocking. So there's just going to be certain times of the day that I am going to be answering my phone and certain times of the day that I'm not. And they can leave a message and I will get back to them during one of those times that are blocked off for dealing with clients. It's another version of setting boundaries, I suppose.
Yes. When we talked earlier, it sounded like you experienced the roller coaster effect, the revenue roller coaster effect. You market yourself, you get leads, then you get busy with client work, you stop marketing, and the leads dry up. And that may be changing now with the time blocking, but that's been something that you've struggled with historically. For those listeners who are in that cycle, that feast or famine revenue roller coaster cycle, what's one tactical thing they could implement tomorrow to start breaking that pattern?
Um, I would say, first of all, yes, the time blocking, but also baby steps. If you know that you want to post on social media, say 3 times a week, right, as bare minimum, then go to your Google Calendar right now and put in there, one day a week where you spend an hour creating those posts and just schedule them out for yourself. And so say every Monday at 3 o'clock, I'm going to take an hour and just schedule out my posts. That way it's done and you have it blocked off. And even when you get busy, that is still going to pop up on your calendar and it's still going to say, hey, don't forget, you need to schedule your posts. Because when you get busy with those clients, it's very easy. It's, 2:55 rolls around, you're not quite done yet with something that you were doing, and you just roll right over your own, time slot for yourself. And all of a sudden you're looking up and you haven't posted in 2 weeks. So that's why when you're done with that client, now you're going to look up and say, hey, I'm not getting any leads. How come? We'll go look at your page. Now you have not actually reached out to your community. You haven't actually made any posts in 2 weeks. And that's because you're busy. So if you make it a point, put it in there, have some kind of reminder for with whatever system you're using, to actually do that, like make posts or schedule your emails. But whatever you're doing, put it there and make it a non-negotiable, because you can continue to work on, your clients' things. If you want to take a break, do that, the scheduling of your posts or whatever. And then if you want to spend extra time on your client stuff, go back to it. But don't sacrifice your own time in your own business for someone else's business.
Good words of advice. Because eventually you may be really busy with client work, but client work ends.
Yes.
And if you haven't been
Especially with
working on your
consulting.
marketing, yeah, especially in consulting.
Yeah,
Yes.
because you're teaching them how to make their business make more money. And so once they get there, they're going to say, okay, I don't need this anymore. And if you don't have another person in your waiting list, basically waiting for your services, then how are you making more money? You're helping everybody else make more money. You have to fill your own pipeline too. So,
Yes. How is your pipeline these days? Do you have a good pipeline?
um,
Do you have a waiting list?
I actually am at a sweet spot right now of I may have room for maybe one more client right now, but most of my clients are people that I'm working with like kind of consistently. I have I think that what it is because I create those friendships and relationships. They actually turn to me when they need stuff, like if they need some graphic design work or they need a referral. I had one client ask me, they were just ordering business cards online, with the services that are available online and stuff, and they're like, this is kind of, I feel like it's expensive. Is there another way to do this? And I was like, let me actually get you in touch with another small business that I know who does this. And they actually do printing and they saved them about half. They literally paid half of what they were used to paying for what they needed. And they're like, wow, that was amazing. All I had to do was ask. And it's like, yeah, networking. So yeah, it's a lot of working with people on and off. And all that looks like is, hey, I need this, and how soon can you get that to me? And then, I basically say, well, I'm kind of busy this week, but I could probably get it to you next week if you need, a brochure made or, a graphic done, something like that. Um, but a lot of times there's a lot of phone calls. There's a lot of, hey, I have a question for you. When do you have time? And then it's just putting it on my schedule. So right now, I have about almost to capacity with, how many people, but at the same time, some of them may get a little less busy coming winter here. I actually work with, a couple landscaping companies even, which will get a little bit less busy in the wintertime, which will then open me up a little more for some other, work that I can fit in there. But ultimately, I think it's like right now is a good sweet spot where I'm comfortable, and consistent. So
Nice position to be in.
yeah, it'll
I want
change.
to talk about I want to talk about word of mouth and referrals. So you
Sure.
built your business through word of mouth and referrals, which is great. But it can also sometimes feel like you're not in control of your pipeline. So
Um,
how you don't agree?
I think you're always in control if you know what you're looking to provide. And you know how to communicate with people and get them to tell you what it is exactly that they're looking for. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me more about that. Let's dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so if I were, if somebody were to say ask me to take over their social media, right? And they're just like, I need you to just take it over. I don't want to look at it. I don't ever want to. I'm gonna go ahead and tell them, well, me personally, I'm not gonna answer your messages that you get. I'm not going to do that. I don't have time to do that for all of my clients, so that's not like a service I'm gonna do. I can do some posting for you. You'll know that you'll get maybe, three posts a week, or, however, whatever we decide on, consistently. But I'm also going to ask you, how much content are you going to give me? Are you going to be doing sales? Are you going to be giving me pictures? How much, you really have to communicate about the capacity of that work to be able to even say, can I handle it, because of how much time it's going to take for what you're expecting. Now, some people, they would love for you to just take over and say, I don't even want to look at that at all. But their expectation of what that actually means to them is what you're trying to pull out of them. If you look at their page and they haven't posted in a year, then their expectations might be a little bit lower than somebody who is literally, that's all they know how to do, but they're trying to free up their time to do other things. And they're consistently posting multiple times a day. So those two expectations, you really need to know what it is that they're asking for. And then at that point, I'll be able to give you a yes or no. And then maybe a offer, like, here's what I can do for you, or I can refer you to somebody who's can do exactly what you're asking for. So I think you have a little bit of control as long as you know how to communicate, and then you have, backup solutions if you have to say no.
Okay. You told me a story about your salon owner friend who refers so much business to you. So, what did you do in that relationship, whether it was intentional or not, that made her such an advocate?
Well, I think that what it was is that she was a brand new business startup. You know, she had always been she was a salon professional for many years, and then she wanted to actually start. She actually created her own product line because of just her knowledge and the amount of years that she's in there. She saw a hole in the market basically and said, "Hey, I think that I can actually fill that." But she knew, absolutely nothing about marketing or trying to actually get the word out there. How am I going to get people to see this, right? And it started out with, common sense. I think I need a website, or I'm going to get it up on Amazon or something like that. And then me and her got to talking, and it's, oh, there's all these other things I can be doing. Okay, well, that means I'm going to need a banner, right, to go behind me so I could do shows. I'm going to need a flyer so that when I go and talk to salons in the area, I can give it to them. I did a lot of graphic design work for her, and just traded graphic design work for work on hair, right? Like, so get my hair done, get my daughter's hair done. And we just kind of created this friendship of, helping each other out, because I have a lot of expertise. And then, when I'm sitting there getting my hair done, like, I will talk to you all about your business the whole time. Or, just like any salon, you're going to get your hair done, you're going to talk to her about what's going on in your life, because it's like your second therapist to have a thought, somebody doing your
Uh-huh.
hair. Um, so we just created a natural friendship. And I think that in doing that, she was just able to see my value. And she has a lot of people in her chair, and some of those people are small business owners. And if they have an issue, she's like, I don't know how to fix that, but I know somebody who might be able to help you with that. And so it's just kind of naturally how it goes.
It's great. After you've been in business 5 years, and when we talked earlier, you said you're probably not where you expected to be, but you have consistent work and referrals. If you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice on day one of starting your marketing company, what would it be?
It would be to maintain consistency with my own company, regardless of, how busy I get with my clients. I think that would have definitely helped me out. Within, in 5 years, what I was able to do for the, ninja obstacle business was exponentially more than what I've done for myself in 5 years. So, even moving forward, I think that, right now, one of my goals is to always kind of prioritize my own business, and constantly be working on that. Because if I think I even made a post about this recently. It was like, if you started your goal that you have today 5 years ago, where would it be now? And just that idea, I can't get it out of my head. It's like every time I think about I don't want to procrastinate anymore. Um,
Mm,
just gonna keep moving forward.
right. Right. The old adage of when's the best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago.
Yes.
When's the next best time? Right now.
Right now. Yep.
Yeah. So switching to kind of the future, where do you see your business in 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years. I would love to be able to say that, a rented office space with a few agents underneath me and, a long waiting list and full pipeline, right? But maybe that's in 5 to 10 years or something like that. Um, but that is the goal. I want to eventually be able to hire a few, people who can learn from me and then help as many small business owners as possible. I really think that that's where it is. It's hard out there for small business owners, and I think that having a little bit of help it can do a lot of good. Those are the people who donate to charities, the good ones, the ones that matter, the ones that, mean something to them. They're the ones who give back to their communities. They're the ones who, try to put their kids through school, and that's who I want to help. So I think the more people I can have under me learning how to do that, the better. And we can really make a difference in the community of that middle class small business owners and just really be that go-to consulting agency, marketing agency.
What do you think are going to be the biggest challenges you're going to face in achieving that vision?
Um, Probably my own, belief in myself to be able to do it, right? Making those leaps. Every business comes to those points where it's like, do I invest in this, or do I, where it gets a little scary? Do I sign that lease on that office? Do I hire this person when I know how much it's going to cost me? Um, and you really have to keep in mind, you go back to those same things that you always work on. I heard this one time. I think it may have been, I don't remember where I heard it, but I do remember that it was when you're facing buying something, right, that's going to investing in your business, like whether you're going to hire somebody or not. It's kind of like, what is it going to cost me if I don't? Asking that question, right? So I'm gonna put this deposit down on leasing this office space, and then it's scary. So it's like, well, what if I don't? Well, what would it cost me to not have that office space? It's gonna cost me probably, three agents that were much better at what they do, because they're not gonna get their own office space if I don't do this. So um yeah, believing in myself, and then constantly moving forward, knowing that I will make the right move and it's a good idea.
So believing in yourself, I also hear trusting yourself, trusting that you've
Yes.
got that your instinct or your gut or what you're telling yourself is right.
Yes. Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, we're coming close to the time wrap up time, and I have a couple rapid fire wrap up questions.
Okay.
So, first one is, what's one book, podcast, or resource that's been invaluable to your consulting practice?
My favorite book that I recommend to everybody is The Decision by Kevin Hart. He have you read that one yet?
No, I haven't.
I would definitely recommend checking it out. He gives so much good advice in that book, and it keeps you interested because he is funny, and he does it in a very funny way. And so I would definitely recommend that book, The Decision by Kevin Hart. Um, and podcast wise, I really like, well, I have so many. I do like Elena Cardone's podcast for women. It's very empowering to women and women-owned businesses, and just that's a really good way to improve your self-confidence. She has a lot of good things to say there. And then Eliza Schlesinger. I can never say her last name, but she's a comedian and she's really, really funny. But she gives a lot of good life advice, and because she's such a successful woman, business owner, and a woman, and she also has children. She has people calling in and asking questions, and sometimes it's silly things, and sometimes it's really deep, good, good questions. and she gives really good advice. And again, it's funny, so it's easy to listen to and stay engaged with. So
Wonderful.
yeah.
And now the single most important question that I can ask you, how can listeners connect with you if they want to learn more about you and your work?
Well, I do have a website. It's jamiesdesign.com. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the same, Jamie's Design. I'm there.
Okay, good. And I will put the link to LinkedIn, to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes.
Great.
Well, Jamie, thank you so much for being my guest today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thank you very much for having me.
I loved Jamie's honesty about imposter syndrome because let's be real, so many of us struggle with this, especially when we're building something new. The idea that you need perfect credentials or a traditional business background to be a consultant, that's just not true. What clients need is someone who can solve their real problems. And that comes from experience, not from letters after your name. If you're sitting on valuable knowledge right now, but talking yourself out of offering consulting services because you don't feel qualified enough, I want you to remember what Jamie said. She was already solving problems and helping people. She just needed to start charging for it. You probably are too. And that decision making framework Jamie shared, ask yourself what it'll cost you if you don't make that scary investment. Don't hire that person. Don't take that leap. Sometimes reframing the question is all it takes to move past the fear and trust yourself to move forward. If you found value in today's conversation, please share this episode with another consultant who needs to hear it. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future episodes. Until next time, keep thriving through.